Good morning. Welcome back to the Red Mic and happy Tuesday. Glad you're here. Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons picked up from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic message 30. More about that later. I rewatched the movie Red One last weekend. That was that Christmas buddy flick action adventure heist movie with Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, playing the biggest elf in the world. Sorry about that, Will Ferrell. And Chris Evans, who is still really, really trying hard to get away from being Captain America. And he did it in this movie by playing just a detestable con man trying to get off the naughty list, or maybe he's just perpetually on the naughty list. Anyway, and J.K. Simmons, yes, we are farmers, bum, 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 bum. J.K. Simmons plays the toughest Santa since either, I don't know, Kurt Russell or maybe Billy Bob Thornton. You pick. Anyway, there's there's a moment between Nick and The Rock, who his character is named Callum Drift, and it's a great moment. It really is. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Callum says, "We choose every day who we want to be. Big decisions, little ones, every one of them matters. But people," and he was pointing at, he's talking about people in the mall and whatnot, "people act like none of it matters." And Nick answers, "If nothing matters to them, then they need us now more than ever." Man, that's so true. Because most of us have been Callum at some point. We're worn out. We're doubting ourselves. We're wondering if anything we're doing is changing a thing. Wondering if the early mornings, the late nights, the small kindnesses, the difficult conversations, if the unseen efforts, if the taking the cart back and putting it up after you're done using it, wondering if any of that actually adds up to anything at all. Makes you wish you had a Nick standing nearby saying, "It's not our job to change people. People change themselves. We just show them that we believe in them and we show them a different path." Well, if that's not truth coming from the farmer's guy who's wearing a red suit while he's doing it. But that's Christmas, right? The season when people feel a little more fragile, a little more hopeful, like Bill Murray talked about in the movie Scrooged. It's when even grown adults need somebody to remind them who they are and who they're trying to be still matters. All of us really are just what we're trying to do in our families and our workplaces and our friendships, I think, is we're trying to believe in people because Anne Frank was wrong. People are not good at heart. A lot of them. And it's hard to see past that. So try to see the good in them, especially when they aren't acting like it's there at all. Try to see the kid they used to be before life got stupidly loud and heavy. When Callum says at the end of the movie, he says, "I lost it for a while," Nick just smiles and says, "It's easy to lose it. The important thing is to keep trying." And it is easy to lose it. It's easy to lose your patience, to lose your drive, to lose your joy, to lose sight of the simple truth that what we do and how we show up still makes a difference. So whatever has you beaten down today, well, today's a good day to show yourself a little grace and keep trying, keep showing up, keep believing in people, even the ones who make it difficult. Maybe especially the ones who make it difficult, because the world doesn't need perfect people. It needs steady people. It needs people who believe. It needs people who keep the lights on for others, well, until they can find their way back. Now, speaking of the person who keeps the lights on for me every day, I mentioned this yesterday. Today is a special day for me and for my bride. December 2nd, 2025, 30 years of marriage. We actually met a long time before that, obviously, 30 years ago. More than 30 years ago, though. First time she walked into the newspaper where I worked, Times Record News in Wichita Falls. She was interviewing for a job, and we had these weird wooden cubicles for the bosses, and they had half walls and glass on top of those. So they were open air, and I'm sitting nearby I didn't have a permanent desk. I'd only been there for a few months. I'm pounding away on my story, and I see this stunning redhead walk in with our managing editor, and they go into his little office cubicle. Now, he had an open door policy. He said, it doesn't matter if I'm in a meeting, it doesn't matter if I'm on a phone call. If you need anything, you knock, I'll invite you in, you come on in and we'll talk about it. So I'm sitting there after watching this stunning redhead walk in the door, and I'm like, okay, I need to figure out a reason to go talk to him. And I did. I don't even remember what it was. She doesn't remember that. Said the whole day was sort of a blur, and I get that. You know, of course, the managing editor introduced us, and I shook her hand and everything, and I, had the Jack Nicholson moment from Batman. Who's that? It wasn't Vicky Vale, it was Carrie Cobble. Anyway, I didn't know it then, but she would one day become the center of my life. But before we got there, she got hired a few months later, and the story started writing itself. I asked her out twice. She turned me down both times. Then she asked me out, and I turned her down. Had some friends over, fraternity brothers playing poker, and I told her, I said, I don't know if my roommate's going to be there or not. And so why don't you call me? And if he's there, I'll come. Well, he was there. We were playing poker. I didn't want to leave. She calls. I talked to her. I said, yeah, sorry, it's not going to work out tonight. Got a whole apartment full here, and it's probably best that I stay. But keep me in mind for next time. Hung up. My best friend, Scooter. Yeah, Scooter. He said, Fortner, who was that? And I was like, yeah, remember me telling you about that redhead at work that I've asked out a couple of times and she turned me down? Yeah. And they're like, that was her. And you turned her down? Yeah. And they were like, dude, high fives all the way around the table. Then she called me the next day, asked me to go out on a group date. Wanted to go see Four Weddings and a Funeral, which I had already seen. I didn't tell her that. But I said, yeah, sure. Sounds like fun. Anyway, we started officially dating a few weeks after that. And here we go. 30 years with the same person. It doesn't happen by accident. It comes from the thousands of small choices that you make over 1,000 ordinary, regular days and moments. You choose to show up. You choose to forgive. You choose to try. You choose to say we when it would be so much easier to just say me or I. When we stood there in that church in 1995, we didn't know what the next 3 decades would look like. We didn't know about the ups or the downs, the losses, the wins, the 2 boys we would help bring into this world together, the long nights, the real life storms, the laughter no one else would understand. We didn't know that I would have a job that would end up taking me away from them for 6 months, driving back and forth between Wichita Falls and Austin. We didn't know any of that, but we knew the promise, and the promise was simple. Carrie, it's you and me. Whatever comes, we're going to get through it together. Too many young couples don't hear the truth. Love isn't the feeling that starts the marriage. Love is the glue that holds it together. It's the discipline that keeps it going. And 30 years later, today, I've learned I didn't know it back then. The real miracle isn't 2 people fall in love. The real miracle is that they choose to stay there through kids and jobs and sickness and heartaches and moves and money and stress and life hitting you in the face over and over again. That takes patience. It takes humility. It takes choosing that person you married long after that wedding day is over. So if you're listening today, I'm going to leave you with this. Whatever you're fighting for, your marriage, your family, your friendships, your purpose, don't let the years wear down the promise you made at the beginning, because that promise still matters. The person still matters. And the choice to love is still the most important choice that you're ever going to make. Here's a funny little twist that only newspaper people might know. In the newspaper PR and comms business, 30 means the end. At the end of a press release, -30. That means the end, the close. There's no more after this, the final line. But today, for me and Carrie Cobble, 30 is just the beginning. And that's today's Red Mike message. Hope you found it interesting or helpful. I hope you will give me a like, a follow, and a share. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. As always, don't forget, life is short. Drink the bourbon. I'll see you tomorrow.